Let's see. Is that good to go? That's off, that's off, that's off, that's on. And it all seems to be working. All right. Let's get it started. Hello, Shadowcat back. Had a week off. That was kind of weird. Unavoidable, but it's weird not doing this every week. So, yeah. We're back. We're still working on conditions, but we're going to finish up conditions today because I've got a feeling that most everything we look at today is going to be just not even applicable. We've seen that a lot with a lot of the conditions I've been working on. A lot of them are either duplicates of other conditions. Most of them from the Pokemon Arceus game, which had to be weird for some reason. Or they're just simply rules as written, and there's nothing we have to do. There's been a couple that tripped us up, but we'll go over those. We'll do a quick little review of everything we did so far, then we'll get into the new ones, but before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and say hello to everyone that's here. I see that Blizz is in the chat. Hello, Blizz. I see that Alden's in the chat. Hello, Alden. Good to see both of you here today. Also, don't forget that if you're here and you're not already subscribed, go ahead and do that. There's a bell icon that you can hit. Hit that too while you're there. If you know somebody else who's also into Pokemon, you can send this to them. Maybe they'll enjoy it. Maybe they'll come and watch it. Because we have fun here. It's a fun place. So share that out. If you like what I'm doing here, you just like Pokemon in general, go ahead and leave a like on the stream. You can leave a comment down below, but if you're going to leave a comment down below, might I suggest, we have a Discord. You can join that Discord. And you might want to join that Discord because we're going to be playing this game. And when we play this game, if you want to join us, you have to be on the Discord. So go to the Discord, go to the Behind the Screen channel. Let me know what games you want to play, because we have multiple. Let me know what your availability is, and as soon as I have enough players for the game, we're going to get started. So, go ahead and do that. Hopefully I'll see you there, and until then, we're going to get into this. So, before we can do that, we're going to have to bring everything in. We're going to need to have our browser. And we'll need to have our spreadsheet. All right, there we go. So, like I said, we'll take a quick look at what we've done so far, just a little bit of a recap. Burning is be based on the move's power. It's going to be 10% of the move's power rounded down. Burning already has a set limit on how long it lasts, I believe, so we don't have to worry about that. Freeze is just going to be paralyzed because they basically do the same thing, which is interesting because paralysis is like completely different. In Pathfinder and Starfinder, paralysis is just you can't move. However, in Pokemon, it reduces your speed and there is a 1d4 chance that you're simply dazed at the beginning of your turn. Which, you know, kind of weird, but hey, it's Pokemon. We do what they say. We've got rules for poison, and poisons will get better over time, as well as badly poisoned, which is great because I love poison types. Obviously, if you are a poison type, you are immune to it, which is nice. Sleep is sleep. Ability suppression is just disabling the abilities. Substitute allows you to basically make another one of yourself. That way, if it dies, your Pokemon gets to come back. Transformed is exactly what it sounds like. It makes a copy of another character. Bound, you can't switch your Pokemon out or flee. It's actually going to put out a radius, which is going to be kind of cool. What else we got? So minimize is just reduce person. Parasong. Parasong is one we spent so much time on. After 3 turns, everybody is going to fall unconscious. And then every turn it's just going to be a wisdom DC, and the DC is equal to their level divided by 5. So, yeah. Should be pretty simple. Scrolling down, we're going to get towards the end of it because there was a lot of them that were just fine. We can use the rules as they are. Can't escape. Kind of like Bound, except that Bound is very much, up close and personal. It's basically grappled. Can't escape, though, and there were several rules that were can't escape. It's a radius on the user that the target just cannot leave. So if they reach the radius, they simply can't, and they can't be switched out either. So that was great. Okay, now need to move this so I can actually read it. There we go. Now I can read it. All right, so now we're going to get back into this. We don't have too much to do, but there's still like 20 or more that we got to get through, and I have a feeling that these will go pretty quick. So let's take a look at Taunt. And it's going to be somewhere in here. There it is. We're still under Prevention. Alright, so Taunt. A taunted Pokemon cannot use any status moves for 3 turns, including status moves that will always turn into damaging moves like Nature Power. The Taunt status can only be inflicted by the move Taunt. And that seems to be pretty simple. From Generation 5 onward, the Mental Herb cures a Pokemon from Taunt. Generation 6 onward, Pokemon with Oblivious are immune to the Taunt condition. If a Pokemon with Oblivious is affected by Taunt, such as it is taunted by, or with Pokemon with the ability like Mold, or Mold Breaker, it will be cured immediately. Again, this seems to be pretty simple. All it is saying is that if you are taunted, you cannot use status effects or status moves. Since we came back here to moves, if we look at this, we have a category: physical, special, or stat. All we're doing is just nixing the stat part. I think we can just leave this one as per rules. So, per rules. That one is simple. And I'll take simple. What about Throat Chop? Pokemon hit by the move Throat Chop will be unable to use sound-based moves for 2 turns. Okay. Alright. Now we gotta get into this. What the hell does a sound-based move mean now? Alright. Says Throat Chop is a damage-dealing Dark-type move introduced in Gen 7, so it's relatively new. It does have TMs, which is fine. In Pokemon Sun and Moon, it was a signature move of Incineroar. I like Incineroar. But other Pokemon could still learn it, or inherit it via breeding. Oh god. It just occurred to me, I'm gonna have to write rules for breeding. I don't even understand breeding in the game. How am I supposed to translate a system that I find utterly incomprehensible in the game? Wait, I know. Don't do it! It's that simple. Don't do it. I can write my own breeding rules. That's how we can do that. Alright, we are not doing that today, though. Whew, that is a can of worms that we're just going to leave sealed, okay? We'll get to that another day. I never even thought about that. I have to do breeding. Oh no. Anyway, Throat Chop. Let's see. This move may be in need of research? Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. So, Throat Chop inflicts damage and prevents the target from using sound-based moves for 2 turns. Status Z moves are unaffected by this effect if the target is causing an uproar, it ends early. Let's see. Alden says there is a simple workaround, an item called Mirror Herb, for learning moves exclusive to breeding at least. I mean, okay, you're right. That is a simple workaround, but and I gotta think about this one because, like, I am not a huge Pokemon player. Okay, it's not my game. It never was. Granted, there are things that I like about it. I like the team building aspect of it. Okay, but I was never the I was never the main character. Okay, when the Pokemon song is playing and it says I want to be the very best, I don't want to be the best. I'm fine with being good enough. Okay, good enough is good enough for me. So I was never one of those people that wanted to breed for perfect stats or something like that. But those people exist. They exist, and I have to be ready for them. So even though there is a simple workaround, and I mean, we'll get to that, I'm still going to have to write in some kind of breeding rules. Now, I'm sure terrifyingly that if I come up here and I click on breeding, it is going to be one of the longest pages in this entire wiki. Okay, maybe it's not. Well, so how to breed? Yeah, no, take him to the daycare. Or, if it's in Gen 9, have a picnic. I know how to hatch eggs. Because, I mean, you just gotta put the egg in your party and walk and it eventually hatches. But the real question comes into, how do you do all the stats? And, I guess Alden agrees. Oh, Sky is here. Hello, Sky. Good to see you. So let's see. The chances of finding an egg are different in these generations. So, same species, different species, same trainers. That's just chances for an egg, though. But what about, like, breeding stats? Because that's the important part. It's not hard to breed two Pokemon together. That's not difficult. All you gotta do is throw them in the nursery, and if they have compatibility, they will breed. The problem is, though... Wait, what is this? Incense breeding? Prior to 9, there were several Pokemon who could produce 2 different kinds of eggs, with baby Pokemon being produced only if a parent of the egg held a specific incense when it was produced. I did not even know that. Huh. Okay, yeah, this is already more complicated than I expected. Regional forms, yeah. See, Alden says, stats will require a talk on IVs. Right, IVs, that was it. And, again, I do not fully understand IVs. We're not going to get into this right now. We're not doing this right now. It's too complicated. It's not what we're here for today. That may be several episodes on its own, unless I develop my own system from scratch, which I am prepared to do. Okay, I am prepared to do that. I'm actually good at this kind of thing. And I could develop a breeding system that is completely unique. Alden says, basically when a Pokemon is generated, a random number from 1 to 31 is generated and added to all of its stats. And that is rolled for every stat. Okay, but when you say random, I have to assume that parentage matters somewhere. Otherwise, I mean, what would be the point? Unless it's just a slot machine and people that are breeding Pokemon, you know, air quotes, are just continuously pulling on the lever, hoping for the best Pokemon. I thought that it was a little bit more involved than that. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know. It's complicated. We'll get into it later. Anyway, Throat Chop. Gotta get back to this. So Throat Chop prevents them from using any sound-based moves. But again, what is a sound-based move? And I don't know. So this is all the Pokemon that can learn Throat Chop, which, you know, long list. But it doesn't say what's actually affected by it. So let's see. If the target's causing an uproar, it ends early. Yeah, it doesn't actually say it though. Alright, so Alden says the stat and the parent of the IV inherits is coin flipped. Okay, that actually makes more sense. Also says that there should be a list of every sound-based move. You would think so. But I'm not seeing a link to a list of every sound-based move. You would think that that would be on here somewhere. Because it seems kind of important. Oh wait, no, there's the link. Okay, found it. Sound-based moves. Got it. Here we go. Sound-based moves. They are going to be... Oh, there's actually a lot of them. Growl, roar, sing, supersonic, screech, snore, perish song. That's funny. After all the time that we spent on perish song, we can stop it with a throat chop. Heel bell, uproar, hyper voice, metal sound, grass whistle, howl, bug buzz, chatter round, echoed voice, relic song, snarl, notable roar, disarming voice, parting shot. Not sure whether that's a sound-based move, but sure. Boom burst, confide, sparkling aria, clanging scales, clangorous soul blaze, clangorous soul, overdrive, eerie spell, torch song, alluring voice, and psychic noise. And then shadow panic, apparently. Alright, so we actually have a list, which means that Throat Chop is going to disable all of these. Okay, then in that case, now that we know what they are, basically, if you're carrying one of these, you get Throat Chopped, this is disabled. Period. Simple. Alright, rules as written then. That's all we need. That's why I said this should go quickly. Alright, Torment. We need to go back a couple of pages. Alright, Torment. A tormented Pokemon cannot use the same move twice in a row. If the Pokemon is holding a choice item, or only has one move remaining, it will use Struggle every second turn. A Pokemon can be tormented when struck by the moves Torment, and the G-Max move Meltdown. But, I mean, we're not using G-Max, so there we go. Alden says, Parting Shot is not supposed to be an attack. It's an insult a Pokemon makes to a target before retreating to its ball. Fair enough. Pikachu, what did you say about my mother? Alright, so, Torment seems to be pretty simple. You just can't use the same move twice. Now, interestingly, here's something interesting. We can stick by this rule. And that actually works out well for us. We can take this rules as written. But because our Pokemon will be able to do more, they're actually going to have a little bit more freedom. So if your Pokemon is tormented, and like let's say you're this Bulbasaur over here, and you've got Vine Whip, okay? Because that's what he's doing. In the normal Pokemon games, if all you had was Vine Whip, you are forced to use Struggle. Okay? However, in our game, Pokemon have the ability to just plain hit you. I mean, we literally wrote up the stats for it. In fact, I believe one of the examples that I had was a Venusaur. It is. It's right here. Venusaur. Level 100. He's cute. He's medium size. He's grass. And more importantly, if we come down here to his melee attack, I put the damage there for some reason, but he does like 1d4. Actually, this never got updated because he should be doing, he's a stage 3, 1d12 plus 5. And so there you go. If your Pokemon was tormented, you couldn't use Vine Whip twice in a row. But one of the things that the Pokemon games did not consider is that in our game, Venusaur could just bite you. So it's like, okay, I'm tormenting you, you're tormented, and then chomp. And then you can sit there and flail with this Venusaur attached to your arm. Or not flail, because I think Venusaur weighs a lot more than that. Either way, it would not preclude you from just simply biting. Now, there is one thing that we could consider. What if skipping that turn didn't clear out the torment? In which case, then you could still bite and do whatever, but you still couldn't use the same move twice in a row. That would keep the spirit of torment. It would force you to be more diverse, but it also wouldn't just keep you from biting things, because let's say you didn't want to use any of the other moves. Maybe you like really diversified your elemental abilities and the other elements are just not going to work, so you have to use grass. So now you kind of resort to just biting, I guess. Alden says, so basically struggle would never see use. Actually, yeah, that is going to be kind of a side effect here. And apparently I did not turn my phone off. I thought I did. Maybe I pushed the button too many times. Okay, well, it's fine. It's off now. This is a professional operation. But anyway, so basically struggle would never see use. I don't think it would. The idea of struggle is basically what we're doing now. Because struggle is the attack that you use when you have nothing else, and it's basically your desperation move. Biting, clawing, headbutting, whatever it takes. Which means that technically speaking, if I wanted to use struggle, I could. I could use struggle as the melee attack. But if I had to really think about that one, I don't want to. Like, I understand that struggle has its use. It's the thing that you have when everything else fails. And they had to put that in there because what other options do you have once all of your other options are gone? But since we have more freedom here and we have the ability to have our Pokemon just brawl it out, we don't need struggle. And it's actually, I think, going to make our Pokemon a little bit better, because struggle also did self-damage. If you ran out of moves, you were on a countdown timer. We're going to take out the timer by doing this. And just let you do your thing. It's going to kind of make the Pokemon their own agents. They can claw, they can bite, they can do whatever. And then they will have all of their other moves in reserve, because all their other moves are going to do so much more damage. Like, even if I adjust this, all right, let me adjust this, because Venusaur, being a stage 3, should do 1d12 plus 5 damage, okay? And again, that should go down here. And the melee attack is going to be the level divided by 5, because that's the base attack bonus. And then plus strength, so that's going to be a plus 25 on attack. Alright, so you've got You've got your Venusaur over here with a plus 25 melee attack that does 1d12 plus 5. So we're talking a minimum of 6, a maximum of 17, with the average being... Hold on, let me do some math here. The average is going to be about 13, I think. No. The average is going to be about 11. So an average of 11 damage on a bite. Compare that with Struggle, that's actually probably kind of low. It's also going to be the reason why you're going to want to do all of the other moves, because if we come over here to moves, a simple tackle is limited to 35 uses, but a tackle is 1d40 damage. Just straight up. So it's going to be really good. I don't think that we're going to need Struggle at all. I think we can do away with that one. And I don't think we're going to lose anything for it. But if you think that we need to keep Struggle for some reason, let me know, and we'll make sure that it gets integrated. Let's see. Also, I see that JP is in. Hello, JP. Good to see you. Let's see. Alden says, Struggle is a 50 power physical move that deals 25% of the max HP of recoil, just for info. Yeah, I know that it has recoil. That's why I said it is a countdown timer. You can only use it so many times before you knock yourself out. We can keep Struggle in. I mean, to be fair, Struggle is a move, okay? And as it is a move, it literally falls into these categories. So, we can keep it in there, and like, if you have no other moves left, and I don't know why you wouldn't have moves left, but if that were the case, we could allow the use of Struggle. It can always be there as a desperation move. It doesn't necessarily have to even supplant your melee or ranged attacks. Yeah, we can keep it like that. I like it. We'll keep Struggle in there just like that. Let's see. Oh, and JP says, today is the annual bake day. Pumpkin rolls, cookies, fudge, etc. I'm going to struggle to not gain 5 pounds. Ah, that's good. That's good. Also, send me some fudge. I like fudge. Alright, however, back to Torment. I do not see that we have to change anything here. I think we'll just leave it rules as written, okay? So we'll go with per rules. And the reason why I'm going to go with per rules, and I'll explain this really quickly. So per rules. Per rules, you can't use the same move twice in a row. I'm going to keep it that way. I am not going to preclude using melee or ranged attacks, though. Meaning that you use a move, you can then continue to do whatever you want. But Torment is going to remain in effect so long as, you know, the battle is continuing. And does it have a time limit? So let me look at Torment real quick. Let's see. The effect lasts until the target is switched out. Okay, so it's going to last the entire fight until they are switched out. It means that you can't spam any moves, which is fine. I mean, you should be fine with that. I'm thinking about my own team that I used in Pokemon, and if somebody had hit any of my Pokemon with Struggle, or with Torment, we would have been fine. We never would have had to use Struggle. It would have been okay. Yeah, there's really nothing we have to do there. So we're going to be fine there. Alright, we're moving on. Confusion is next. Now this is one that we might have to spend some time on, because there is confusion in Pathfinder and Starfinder, and then there's confusion in Pokemon, and they are not going to be the same thing. Okay, so it says here that confusion is a volatile status condition that causes a Pokemon to sometimes damage itself in its confusion instead of executing a move. JP says struggle, torment, what's next? Torture? Well, I'm not going to stop you from doing whatever it is that you want to do. So, like, if you want to be the torture Pokemon trainer, have at it, I guess. Okay. So, looking at confusion. Because of confusion causes a Pokemon to sometimes attack itself instead of executing the selected move for a random 2 to 5 turns. This includes attempting to use Snore or Sleep Talk while asleep, as well as moving again via Instruct. On the final turn of confusion, the Pokemon will snap out of it and attack normally. Like other volatile status conditions, confusion wears off when a confused Pokemon is taken out of the battle or a battle is over. Turns spent recharging, such as after using Hyper Beam, and turns in which the Pokemon is unable to attack due to sleep, freeze, or flinching, will not lower the remaining number of turns of confusion. The Pokemon may hurt themselves in confusion during either turn of a multi-turn move, such as Fly or Dive. When a Pokemon is unable to attack for some reason, such as being asleep, it will simply not hurt itself. So the confusion damage is calculated as if it were a typeless physical move with a power of 40. It cannot critically hit, it does not receive stab, confusion damage is unaffected by Wonder Guard, Technician, or a held life orb. Badges affect confusion damage when they boost the user's physical attack or defense. Other things may affect confusion's damage depending on the game, as detailed in the table below, which apparently is so big they had to hide it. That's a big table, yeah. Let's see. JP says, I'm not Hassan Piker. I don't torture friends. Oh, shots fired. However, Hassan can go to hell. Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty for confusion, I want to bring something else up, and that is Pathfinder. Now, confusion is something that exists in Pathfinder, and I'll be honest with you, confusion is one of these status effects that I actually like. I rather like confusion more than other things, because it's interesting, it's fun, it's random, I like it. So I'm going to come down here to Game Mastering and Conditions. Now, confused. Here we go. So, a confused creature is mentally befuddled and cannot act normally. A confused creature cannot tell the difference between ally and foe, treating all creatures as enemies. Allies wishing to cast a beneficial spell that requires a touch on a confused creature must succeed a melee touch attack. If a confused creature is attacked, it attacks the creature that last attacked it until that creature is dead or out of sight. Roll in the following table at the beginning of each confused subject's turn each round to see what they do. Now, this is, in a way, very similar to what's happening with confusion. Because, let's see. Does it, what's the chance? What's the chance here? Does it say on here? That's just damages. This is just damage. But what's the chance that they actually hurt themselves? That includes as using those. Snap out normally. Taken out of battle. Anything charging. They may hurt themselves during a multi-turn, but what's the chance that they hurt themselves? Oh wait, here we go, Gen 1. They have a 50% chance to damage themselves instead of executing the move. And that was Gen 1, though. Did that ever change? Here we go, Gen 7 onward. It's now a 33% chance to damage themselves during confusion. All right, so it's a 1/3 chance to do it. Let's see. JP says confusion exists in Pathfinder. Yeah, we know. I'm confused at least once per session. Okay, I feel like that's actually more of a commentary on me. Clearly, I need to improve something then. All right, so it's a 1/3 chance in Pokemon. In Pathfinder, though, it's only a 25% chance. But there are some extra things. So, at the beginning of the confused subject's turn, you have to roll a D100 and abide by the table. On a 1 to 25, you get to act normally. Whatever it is that you were doing, you do it. So this is kind of like the opposite of what's happening in Pokemon, where they only have a 1/3 chance to hurt themselves, a 2/3 chance to act normally. At 26 to 50, you would do nothing. You stand there and you babble. All right, that's fine. 51 to 75, you deal 1d8 points of damage plus your strength modifier to yourself with whatever item happens to be in hand. And this is where we get into the actual confusion in Pokemon. You hurt yourself. In this case, it's 1d8 points. In Pokemon, it's the equivalent of a power 40 move. Now, we may have to adjust that because, quite frankly, if somebody managed to confuse your level 3 Pokemon, and it did a power 40 move to itself, your Pokemon would just knock itself out instantly. We could stick with this, maybe. Or 76 to 100, your Pokemon attacks the nearest creature. Now, it also mentions familiars. Your Pokemon aren't going to have a familiar, but it also means that your Pokemon could turn around and attack you. Something that is impossible in the Pokemon games because in the Pokemon games, you're not on the field. I'm not going to lie, I am very, very tempted to use the Pathfinder confusion completely in lieu of the Pokemon confusion, just because I feel like Pathfinder's confusion adds more. JP says, is the player considered a creature? Every living thing and even every undead thing is considered a creature. Yes, it does specifically say to attack the nearest creature. Every living and undead thing is considered a creature. Things that are not considered creatures are going to be trees, rocks, buildings, whatever. Things like that. If it's an inanimate object, it is not a creature. If it is an animate object, which does include undead things, it is a creature. Alden says, I think that is closer to how it works in the anime, so fair enough. And that's kind of my point. Like, the games are very, very limited in what they can do. And so we would have to look better to, like, the manga or the anime for that. And I'm not as familiar with either one. So, yeah. I mean, how many times in the manga or the anime did, say, Pikachu get confused or something and then turn on Ash? I don't know. Maybe it never happened. But I'm pretty sure it probably happened at least at some point. I do think the ability of, or having the ability for your Pokemon to accidentally turn on its own trainer is valuable enough, and it adds enough depth to simply to make it worth putting in. Because confusion is already great. Like, I like using confusion in the Pokemon games just because confusion is a great way to slow your opponent down. If you paralyze them, they can miss moves. If you confuse them, they can miss moves. If you sleep them, they can miss every move. And I'm a big fan of, just stopping them. This is going to make it so... confusion is going to be so much more viable as a move. If somebody has like a Gardevoir and they throw a Gardevoir out there, you're suddenly saying, "Oh, I'm in danger. Me personally, I'm in danger now." So yeah, I'm very tempted to just use regular confusion. PC Unicorn's in the chat. Hello, PC. Are you sure, or are you confused about that? I'm a little confused. Just a little bit, though. Alden says it would make confusion a lot scarier, though. I agree, and I'm here for the scary. Alden also says, I don't remember it with Ash, but Team Rocket's own Pokemon did turn on them once or twice. Fair enough. PC says, oh no, never confused and turn on Ash. It was always deliberate. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, Ash and Pikachu did kind of hate each other. Alright, so yeah, I think we'll do that. So confusion is going to be per Pathfinder rules. Nothing to change. We're just going to use the Pathfinder rules for that. And I like it because there's a 25% chance that if you go to use Flamethrower, you get to Flamethrower them. Or 25% chance you do nothing. 25% chance that you do melee damage to yourself. So, okay, fine, whatever. And the fact is that, like, 1d8 plus strength. If you're a level 1 Pokemon, or hell, even all the way up to like a level 5 Pokemon, that's dangerous. But once you're like level 70 something, 1d8 points of damage? Whatever. And attack the nearest creature. For this purpose, familiars count as part of the subject's self. Yeah, it's fine. So just, like if your Pokemon gets confused, maybe run. Unless you have something that you can do to help it. Alright, so confusion is good. We can skip that one now. So what's next? Infatuation. Oh, speaking of Pikachu, there's a big Pikachu. Pokemon that's infatuated cannot use moves 50% of the time, even against a Pokemon other than the one it is infatuated with. The Pokemon will remain infatuated as long as it is infatuated, or the Pokemon it is infatuated with is on the field. That's a mouthful. Can we clean that up a little bit? So, if an infatuated Pokemon attempts to use a move, it will fail 50% of the time, even when targeting the Pokemon other than the one it is infatuated with. This failed move does not spend points. So it seems like the 50% fail rate is global. So whether it's the Pokemon that used Infatuate or it's anybody else, it is just a global effect. Your moves are a coin toss. Alden also says, poor Raichu gets remembered as Big Pikachu. I know. I know it's a Raichu. But we were just talking about Pikachu, so I had to. Let's see. If the Pokemon attempts to use consecutive moves like Outrage, Petal Dance, Rollout, or Thrash, but fails any turn because of Infatuation, the move will be interrupted. It also prevents the user from becoming confused after the move's last turn, except Generation 5 onward. The user still becomes confused if interrupted, when it would be the last turn nonetheless. Okay, so basically, it seems like all of this is just a coin toss on every move. So, I mean, every move, roll 1d2, and if you roll a 2, you get to actually do your move. You roll a 1, it fails. Honestly, there's nothing we have to do here. Per rules is fine. Alright. moving on. Infatuation is super simple. Now we're getting into stat moves. Now, this actually should be really easy too, because all of the stat moves are either going to up or down your moves, and it's going to up and down moves by a certain number of steps. We've already done the work for this. Under moves, we have up here our scale. Everything can go from -6 to +6. We have over here what they do. So if it's upping or down your attack, it's a number of advantages or disadvantages. Defense is a bonus to your AC or kinetic armor class. Defense is going to be an advantage to your special attack or disadvantage. Special defense is a plus or minus to your will and or EAC. Speed is going to be simply plus or minus 5 feet per stage. Evasion is reflex. Accuracy is your attack roll. So I think that should be all we have to do. Let's see. Alden says, no. This one is actually going to play with numbers. Why must you constantly poo-poo on my parade? Okay, fine. We're going to get into it. I assumed that's all it was going to do, but I guess we're going to find out, aren't we? PC says, catches Raichu, gives nickname Super Size Me. That's funny. It's really funny. Okay, let's start. Getting pumped. A Pokemon can become pumped by using the move Focus Energy, or the item Dire Hit is used on it. In Gen 1, a pump Pokemon is 75% less likely to land a critical hit as a result of a bug. In Gen 2, it has a critical rate increased by 1 stage. Okay, hold on. We got to look at this. Okay. Gen 1. Alright, Focus Energy permanently divides the user's probability for landing a critical hit by 4, while it was intended to multiply it by 4. But the move is it works incorrectly in those games. Well, that sucks, because in Gen 1, it's not like you could just patch it. There was no DLC for the Game Boy. The effect of a Focus Energy cannot stack, and it will fail if the user's already under this. Alden says, to understand this, you've got to understand Pokemon's crit system. Yeah, I think we're going to have to do a little bit of a dive into the Pokemon crit system. Now, that being said, though, do we actually? No, we don't. We have to know the basics of how the Pokemon crit system works, but we already have a crit system because we use the D20 system. So, we already have it. If you roll a natural 20, it's a critical hit. Now, hold on a second. So, according to this, Focus Energy divided the user's probability of landing a critical hit by 4, but it was intended to multiply it by 4. So let's take this thing at its core. That means that if we were translating just that part directly into our system, if a natural 20 is the range is 1, so it's a 20. By using Focus Energy, if we multiplied 1 by 4, it's 4, which means that the critical range after using Focus Energy would be 20, 19, 18, 17. What we're looking at here is essentially, if this is all it does, the effect of Focus Energy is just the feat improved critical. So we're going to go to feats, and I know that'll make JP happy because JP has a thing for feats. Critical feats. And we're going to want to find Improved critical. Where is it? Oh, wait, these are criticals that affect, or these are feats that affect your critical hits. They don't improve your critical hits. Okay. That's cool, though. I never really looked through those. I just assumed they made your crits better. Okay. So, improved critical. Here we go. So, I gotta be honest, this is one of my favorite feats in the game because I like rapiers, which already have a large critical on them. The critical effect for a rapier is 18 through 20, which means that if you were to, if you got improved critical, it becomes 15 through 20, which is wild. It is a 30% chance to crit on every attack. But what it says here is the range, or the critical range of the weapon that you select is doubled. So if it was a 20, it's now a 19 to 20. If it was a 19 to 20, it's now a 17 to 20. And like I just said, if it was an 18 to 20, it's now a 15 to 20, which is ludicrous. So that's funny. But Alden says, anyway, base crit is 4%. Okay. So that's nice. And the base crit in D20, because, 100% divided by 20 sides in a die, the base crit chance for the D20 system is 5%. So those are already really close. Alden then says focus energy raises it to 50% based on modern rules. Well, let's go back and take a look. Gen 2, focus energy increases the critical hit ratio by 1 stage. Okay. Gen 3 and 4, it raises it by 2 stages instead of 1. Of course, I don't have stages for these yet, but let's keep reading. The effect of focus energy can now be copied by Psych Up, Transform, or Co-Star. Gen 8 is Legends Arceus, so who cares? And that's kind of the end, actually. So, let's see. Focus energy can also be used as part of a contest spectacular combination. Don't care about that. Okay, so I know that you're saying that focus energy raises it to 50%, but that doesn't help too much because there's nothing here that actually says 50% unless I'm missing it. It all says that it raises it by 1 stage or 2 stages. Oh, it looks like Blizz is out of here. Thank you for coming, Blizz. It was good to see you, and take care. Let's see. Alden says, if the Pokemon is holding a scope lens or has the ability Lucky and uses focus energy, it has a 100% chance instead. Okay, so that's very interesting, and we can get into things like that. For our purposes, I don't think that I can convert that one entirely on its own, because the crit system is Oh wait, here we go. Hold on. Alden says the raising crit system by 1 stage means that it goes from 4% to 12.5%, from 12.5 to 50, and from 50 to 100, which is, yeah. I'm not doing that because that's just kind of weird. So it's multiplied by 3 times, then it's multiplied by 4 times, then it's multiplied by 2 times. That is just wildly inconsistent, and I hate it. I don't like that. So we're not going to do that. We're going to rewrite this one for our own purposes. Okay, we're going to do this on our own. Alden says you can't stack Focus Energy. I did see that. It does not stack. So it's not like you can just keep doing it over and over and over again, but there's other ways that you can do it. Still, though, we're not going to do that. It says that it increases everything by 1 stage, except, in Gen 3 through 5, it became 2 stages. I figure that we can actually use the stages that we already have. So, like I said, up here we have our stages. We can simply say that if you do this, you're going to increase your crit by 1. Or since Psycha, what did we do? What is this? No, Focus Energy. Since Focus Energy is going to increase it by 2 stages instead of 1, that means that your critical range would increase by 2. Meaning that, since your base crit chance is going to be natural 20, it would then become 18 through 20. Now, I don't know anything about this scope lens, but let me look it up. Scope lens. Okay. Scope lens is an item that increases a critical hit ratio. Cool. How much? So, raises critical hit ratio, The last description, an item to be held by Pokemon, a lens for scoping out weak points, it boosts the holder's critical hit ratio. None of these explain how much, though. Which is kind of weird. Like, the people that are really into Pokemon are, like, really into Pokemon. And, numbers are everything to them. The fact that there's, like, no numbers on here is bizarre. Oh, no, wait, here we go. Found it. It's right there. It raises it by 1 stage. Okay, there we go. It's, yeah, Alden just pointed out, says, there's an effect sentence. It's literally just 1 sentence. Yeah, I missed it. That was my bad. That's my bad. Okay, so it raised it by 1 stage. So let's go ahead and just say you used Focus Energy and you were holding a scope lens. The Focus Energy is going to be 2 stages. And the scope lens is 1 stage, which means that we get to move up to 3. So now your critical hit range is going to be 17 through 20. We're up to a 20% crit chance. Now, the other thing that you were pointing out, where was it? Has the ability Lucky. Let's look at that. That's a Chansey. I looked for Lucky. Why did you... Why? Just why? Lucky skill? No, it's not it. Lucky well, maybe it's Lucky skill? I'm not sure. Let's see. It's a game mechanic introduced. No. I don't think this is it either. All it says, oh wait, I think it's called Super Luck. Well, hold on, let me check that one then. Super Luck? Super Luck ability. Okay, here we go. You are correct. It was introduced in Gen 4. In Gen 9, it is the signature ability of Murkrow and Honk Crow. Alright, so it heightens the critical ratios of moves, but by how much? In battle, it increases the critical hit ratio by 1 stage. Meaning that, if we were to go with what Alden was saying, so Focus Energy, Scope Lens, and Super Luck. Natural Crit is on a 20. Focus Energy increases it by 2. Scope Lens increases it by 1. Super Luck increases by 1, so that's going to be 5. Meaning that you would crit on a 16 through 20. Now, that is actually a pretty far cry from the 100% that you would get in the actual games. But in terms of like a D20 system, it's actually really, really good. Critical hits happen in Pokemon a whole lot more than they seem to in any other D20 game, and that's fine because critical hits are supposed to be rare. Mostly because a critical hit usually has the chance to end your entire run in like 1 or 2 shots. Critical hits are supposed to be kind of a special thing in most D20 games, so, you know, Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, Starfinder, etc. I'm actually okay with using this system. It's going to basically murder anybody who really likes using a crit-based Pokemon in the games. And I feel a little bad about that. However, having a 100% critical chance is also kind of broken. And I'm going to go ahead and say this because my partner was Meowscarada. And Meowscarada has Flower Trick. And Flower Trick is one of the most absolutely disgusting moves that Pokemon ever put in a game. And I'm going to say that with Meowscarada being my partner, and I absolutely love it. Flower Trick is disgusting. I don't know who approved that. And I'm going to go ahead and pull it up, just in case anyone doesn't hear. Alden, I know you know it, but just in case anyone else doesn't know it. This is Flower Trick, the signature move of Meowscarada. Let's go ahead and look at the description. Flower Trick inflicts damage, and by the way, it's a power 70 move. It bypasses accuracy checks to always hit, unless the target is semi-invulnerable. And it will always result in a crit unless the target has a battle armor or shell armor. Let's just make this clear. It is an auto hit and auto crit. Every single time. And so, Alden says it is still considered balance. How? How in God's name is that balanced? Is it because it's only a power 70 move? Now here's the thing, okay? I'm not changing this. Alright? I'm not changing it. There are moves that are auto hits, and Flower Trick is not the only one. I want to say Aerial Ace is also a guaranteed hit. I'm not changing it. So every single time that you use a move, you are going to have to make an attack roll. Okay? If you use Flamethrower, it is an attack roll. You're going to have to make it. That being said, though, if it is an auto hit, you don't have to make an attack roll. Similarly, Flower Trick is an auto crit. which means that every single time you hit, it is going to crit. And I don't know what else I can really say about that. Now, interestingly, let's see, what does critical hit actually do? It multiplies the damage of a damage-dealing move. How much? Because in most D20 games, critical damage is handled either one of two ways. Either you multiply the damage by 2, or you roll the damage twice and add them together. For Pokemon, when a move lands a critical hit, the attacker's level will be doubled during the damage calculation. A rough approximation for the damage multiplier is this equation, which is awful, where L is the attacker's level. As a result, lower level Pokemon have a smaller critical hit boost than higher level Pokemon. I'm inclined to just skip that because that's just awful. We can just double the damage. We can double the damage and call it good. Or, actually, no, what? We won't double the damage because I don't like that. I'll just let you roll the damage twice. That way there's a little bit more flexibility in a critical hit. Maybe it does an obscene amount of damage. Maybe you actually scrape by, you know, barely escaping a critical hit. I like the idea that there's more variability. Here, though, it says that, you know, a level 5 Pokemon would be about 1.5 times damage, a level 20 would be about 1.8, and a level 95 Pokemon would inflict approximately 1.95. And I mean, I understand it, that's a really good system to use, I enjoy it, but the only way this would work is if I pre-made a table. Which I can do, actually. I can pre-make a table for that. I can pre-make a table, that way you can simply reference the table and just say, oh, my Pokemon is level 17, there's my critical damage multiplier. I could do that. It wouldn't even take that long, because once you understand the equation, it's just copy and paste. I don't know. What do you think? Should we... What? We have 3 options on the table. Alright, what should we do? Should it be a table? A reference table? Should it just be double damage? Or should it be roll twice? Oh, and Alden says that entire paragraph only applies to Gen 1. Okay, well, that's fair. Okay, that's fair. Core Series, Pokemon Stadium, Gen 2 onwards. Let's see, from Gen 2 to Gen 5, critical hit deals 2 times normal damage. From Gen 6 onward, it's 1.5 times normal damage. And let's see. Probabilities, don't care because we already took care of that. Although, I mean, the chance of a critical hit... Oh, I see what they did here. Okay, I see what they did here. They were looking at it in terms of fractions, not percentages. The percentages were ancillary. 1 in 24 divided by 4 is a 1, or no, divided by 3 is a 1 in 8, divided by 4 is a 1 in 2, and then divided by 2 is just always. Okay. I understand their logic now. I'm not changing my system. Okay? I'm not changing my system, but I understand it. Stage modifiers, though... +1 stage. +2 stages. Wait. Attack property. 10 million volt thunderbolt. Where does that even come from? Pikachu, did you swallow like a nuclear reactor? Let's see. Sticks or leaks for far-fetched or surfetched only. Lucky Punch for chancy only. Or for getting pumped. Focus Energy, Dire Hit, Dragon Cheer, Triple Arrows, all kinds of stuff. Let's see. Moves that cannot score critical hit. Oh, Alden says it's a Z move. Okay, that's fair. We're not doing Z moves. I know, they're there. Every game had its own little gimmick. We're just not doing gimmicks here. Let's see. Inside games, Pokemon Unite. Okay. It seems that when they said Gen 6 onward, they were serious about that. So, from Gen 6 onward, critical hit deals 1.5 damage, or 1.5 times the normal damage, period. Seeing as how that is the last update, that's what we'll go with. It'll just be a simple add half the damage to your move. Alright, in that case, it seems simple enough, we don't need to worry about it. And as far as this one goes, I think we can go ahead and stick with what I said before, where we're just going to keep upping the stages. I do need to make a note here, and that is going to be critical chance. And that's going to be increase or decrease critical threat range. Because I have to imagine if there are moves to increase a critical chance, there might be moves to also decrease it. I just don't necessarily know what those are off the top of my head. Okay, so there we go. That's getting pumped. Now, that was a lot more complicated than I thought it would be, but we were able to use the scale anyway. It's going to be fine. Guard Split. What is this? It is a non-damaging Psychic-type move introduced in Gen 5. It splits the user's defense and special defense stats with those of the averages, excuse me. The user's defense and special stats with those of the target Pokemon. Both the user's and the target stat changes are ignored when calculating the average. Alden says, I don't think so. I could be wrong because building around crit is like a crazy niche strategy. I mean, I agree that it's probably a crazy niche strategy, but it is one that works. Technically. But like, I play Magic the Gathering. Every Magic the Gathering deck has usually a theme, or it has a strategy, or even just a simple win condition. You gotta build around something. I mean, my personal Pokemon team was built around hit them with Flower Trick until they die, and if they don't die from Flower Tricks, hope that everybody else can kill them first. You know, everyone's gotta have a strat. Alright, Guard Split. Averages the user's defense and special defense with those of the target Pokemon. Both the user's and the target stat changes are ignored when calculating the average. It bypasses accuracy. This is going to be complicated. This is going to be complicated because if it wants to average things out, that's like a calculator. Still, though, I mean, this might not be that hard. So, it says the user's defense and special defense. Now, here's the thing. Defense and special defense, we converted those. So, we come back here to the type conversion. We've got all of our stats right here. Strength, Dex, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, Charisma. And then we have all of our Pokemon stats next to them. Attack speed, HP, special attacks, defense, special defense. So we're talking about their wisdom and charisma. So it wants to average the user's defense and special defense stat with those of the target Pokemon. So what does that mean? Well, that means that, like, if we were to take these two Pokemon right here, okay? Which this is Venusaur, and this one was Aegislash. We got to look at these because we expanded this because we've got our base stats here, the number of points we put into them, and then the total points, or the actual score for them. We didn't do that for Venusaur because we didn't keep the base stats in there. So let's just say that we're using, or Venusaur is using it on Aegislash. Wisdom 20, Wisdom 20. If we average them, the average is 20. Charisma. Average is 22, average is 20. Or no, Charisma is 22, Charisma is 20. If we average them, Venusaur would go down to 21, Aegislash would come up to 21. This is actually going to be kind of a weird thing where the rules as written I don't think work for us. I don't think so. Maybe they do, because that would affect their stats, because gotta think about this one really hard. So the weird thing about special defense is that it's supposed to be your defense against other people's special attacks. And to that end, the ability to resist these is going to be... This is actually a little bit more complicated than I was thinking. This works good the way it is. What I think we're going to need to do is actually change a few base things. So, for example, the thing that you would use to resist a special attack normally, like if I was casting a spell at somebody, if I was trying to use an enchantment or a psychic ability or something like that, you would be entitled to a will save. However, honestly, that doesn't really matter. Alright, I think I see a problem here. And the problem is that D20 games generally revolve around an all or nothing system, okay? So let's think about this for a minute. It's an all or nothing system because there are very few cases of what you would call a glancing blow. Mostly because the damage is very much on a it's randomized by dice. So you're either, number one, when there is an attack, it is a binary outcome. You are either hit or you are not hit. One or the other. If you are hit, you are taking damage. If you are not hit, you do not take damage. Now, if you are hit, which again is very, very much binary. If you are hit, then we're going to roll dice, and the dice will tell you what kind of hit it is. If you are swinging, like, say, a war axe, a D10, if you roll a D10 and you roll a 10, that is not just a hit. That is, you got hit with the full broad edge of the blade, and you have been dealt a significant injury. If you roll a D10 and you roll a 1, you have been hit. However, it may have only been the far tip of the axe blade, and you were only dealt a minor laceration, okay? You've been cut. But the amount of damage rolled on the dice is going to narratively impact what exactly happened. Pokemon doesn't really have that. While it is true, technically, that there is a binary system where you can miss, missing is a lot less common, unless you're running a high evasion build. More accurately, the defense and special defense in Pokemon acts more like damage reduction. See, damage reduction is actually pretty rare in tabletop games like Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder. You're only going to find it on high-level items or high-level monsters who are just really, really tough. And damage reduction is very simple. If you go to fight a creature with a DR, damage reduction, of 5, the first 5 points of damage dealt do not apply. And so if you swing an axe at them and you rolled 10, the first 5 points get knocked off, and so your 10 damage turns into 5. That is basically the way Pokemon is working in general. The higher your defense stat, the more damage is being taken off of your physical moves. The higher your physical or your special defense stat, the more damage is being taken off of your special attack moves. And then there is an entirely separate thing for evasion. JP says, kind of like a blade of armor, with the exception that a blade of armor eventually runs out over time. Damage reduction, on the other hand, is permanent, with a few very, very niche exceptions. Damage reduction can be sometimes eliminated by the use of special materials. Like, for example, actually, I'm not even sure if this is a good example, but I want to say werewolves. Except that I don't think werewolves have a damage reduction. I think werewolves have a natural regeneration. Until you deal damage to them with silver. If you do damage to a werewolf with silver, it ends their natural regeneration. And then they can be killed like any normal beast. That's more kind of like what the Blade of Armor is, but normally damage reduction is permanent. The system that we're building here, though, does not have any built-in damage reduction. Everyone is going to get hit for the full power of pretty much every move, which actually, now that I discuss that, now that I say it out loud, makes a lot of sense. Why are all of these moves so powerful? Why is it that a level 1 Pokemon who only has 4 hit points can use a move that does 1d40 damage? The move was clearly intended to have damage reduction applied to it. And so, what if we were to bake this in somehow? How could we do that? What if we were to bake this in? What if we were to say somehow that the stats that you have are going to somehow affect a damage reduction? Because if we do this, if we do this, then we can actually help improve this guard split move. And PC says, so the Lone Ranger's horse has advantage against werewolves. Got it. I don't know about the Lone Ranger's horse, but I know that the Lone Ranger spends his free time hunting werewolves. I mean, why else would you pack silver bullets? And yes, I know the reason why it was done in the old serials. Don't at me. I do think that we need to have that damage reduction back in here. And I think we can do it pretty easily. How best do we do this? So let's see. As it is looking at right now, so we've got this this level 89 Aegis Slash. We got this level 100 Venusaur. Okay, level 100 Venusaur has a 22 Charisma. The 89 Aegis Slash has a level 20 Charisma, or a 20 in Charisma. Either way. Thoughts? Having a hard time. If we wanted to turn this into a damage reduction, we need to look at the actual damage that's being done by some of these moves. Because I'm going to go back to Flower Trick, because I can. Flower Trick is a physical move. Power 70, so it's going to do 1d70 damage. That then gets multiplied by 1.5. But regardless, defense is by wisdom currently. And both Venusaur and Aegis Slash have a 20 in wisdom. If we use that as just a flat damage reduction, that means that we could take 20 points of damage off of the power 70 move. Which is great. It's not a ton, but then again, I don't know that I noticed too much of a difference in damages when I was playing Pokemon. Most because I don't use a lot of numbers, or at least the number you can't see the numbers. When you hit somebody, you just watch their health bar go down. The only numbers that Pokemon cares about is more than 50%, less than 50%, or less than 10%. Because that's green health bar, yellow health bar, red health bar. If we were to use that as a flat damage reduction, this might actually work out kind of well for us. Because I'm looking at the Aegis Slash here, and I'm looking at its base stats, okay? Every Pokemon is going to have base stats, and most of their base stats are going to be garbage. Because they are. Even the base stats for this Aegis Slash, it has a strength of 14. Okay, great. But it only has a 6 in Dexterity, a 6 in Constitution, more importantly, a 5 in Wisdom, and a 5 in Charisma. If you had a Pokemon that just had a 5 in Wisdom, that means that if they were to get hit by something like, say, a Tackle, which again, Tackle, power 40 move. We can look at it over here, where I've already got it plotted out. Right here, Tackle. That means that it would be a 1d40, but the other Pokemon would be able to take off 5 points of that. Meaning that, is this move going to be absolutely massive? Yes. Yes, it is. However, we just took this absolutely, homicidal move that is guaranteed to knock out any Pokemon that it hits, and by giving a damage reduction of 5 against it, there is, because your level 1 Pokemon is only going to have like 4 hit points, maybe 6 if it's a 2 stage, 12 if it's a 1 stage. But if it's got a 5 in its Wisdom, that means that there is a 1 in 8 chance that the Tackle simply does not hurt them. And a few more points of chance that it does not do lethal damage. I think that is a massive solution for us. This is going to be massively balancing. Now, is it going to help in other things? Well, let's take Headbutt over here. Headbutt does 1d70 damage. I mean, even if you've got like a 10 in your wisdom, you've got a 20 in your wisdom, that's still a 5 in 7 chance that it's going to do damage, and probably significant damage at that. I think this is going to work for us. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put this down here. So, wisdom, defense, DR versus physical moves. And it's going to be charisma, special defense, DR versus special moves. Okay, now that we've done that, let's go back to the guard split here and see what this is going to do for us. So guard split is going to average the user's defense and special defense stats with those of the target Pokemon. Both of them, or both the users and the target stat changes, are ignored when calculating the average, which is fine. We're just talking base numbers. It means that when you use this move, it's going to come back here and it's going to look at the charisma and wisdom of the targets and average those numbers. And by averaging those numbers, it is going to average the damage reduction that both Pokemon get. And so if it's a much higher level Pokemon, you can significantly reduce their damage reduction and up your own, which is going to make them more vulnerable and highly increase their survivability. Of course, that could also go the other way around. But I think that's going to be our solution for this. I think that's how we make it work. And so we'll be able to leave guard split rules as written. And all we have to do is simply apply it to our conversion module, and that should work. Because you'll know what your stats are, I'll know what my stats are, and your stats are for that matter. And so if you happen to use it, we just compare numbers, and there you go. More importantly, I'm not going to let you see my character sheets for, my NPCs. But what I can tell you is that if you were to use this against my Pokemon and I had these stronger defense stats, I can simply tell you that, for the duration of this, your damage reduction is going to go up by X number of points. And that should work. I like this. This is going to be great. All right, so I need to get back to status effects. Oh, right. I didn't even fill in getting pumped. So getting pumped, that was going to be adjust crits on modifier scale. And guard split is going to be per rules. And the real example there is going to be, what we were doing before. Now, power split, I'm assuming is going to be the same thing, but it's going to be for attack stats. It averages the user's attack and special attack with those of the target Pokemon. Power split will ignore both the user and target stat changes when calculating the average. And that's fine. Power split is going to be significantly less impactful for us. The reason being is that power is going to be or the attack is going to be strength, and special attack is going to be intelligence. And neither of these are really impacting how we use our moves. I mean, we got them over here. Actually, attack is going to increase how well you can use your melee attacks. But it doesn't actually affect how the other moves work. They're not conferring any kind of damage bonus to these. And perhaps they should? I don't know. Here's the thing. Like, if I were to go ahead and simply say that the attack and the attack and special attack give you a damage bonus on each one of these moves, they would essentially just negate the damage reduction. And we don't want to negate the damage reduction because, frankly, we kind of need it. But at the same time, we got to do something with it because otherwise, what's the point of even having it? It would just be a dead move. And we don't want that. So how do we normally... See, I'm trying to keep everything as close to the chest as possible because I could... And I really don't like this idea. I could rewrite the rules to include power. So, for example, let's take an alternate version of the game. Okay, let's take an alternate version. And in this alternate version, we are going to be basing how much damage does a Pokemon move do based upon your power. Now, I can easily come back here and look at ability scores. Specifically, we don't even need to look at ability scores in general. We just need to look at the modifiers right here. So, at a negative or at a 1, your modifier is a -5, and this is going to continue down, 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 down until you get to 12, where you start getting bonuses. What if I had made a system where every single move did a base amount of damage? Like, let's say that this tackle up here, instead of doing 1d40 damage, what if it did 1d8 damage? Okay? What if it did 1d8 damage? That means that it would only be doing up to 8 damage. Okay, fine, whatever. With a strength score of 12 to 13, actually, at anything less than 12, you would do 1. And at 12 to 13, it would still be 1. But what if every single time this went up, you got another damage dice? So, seeing as how tackled is 1d40, at a strength of 12 to 13, it would do 1d8. At 14 to 15, 2d8, all the way up to a stat of 20 to 21, where it does 5d8. That's a maximum of 40. Or if we were to push it, even up to 22, 23, where it would do 6d8. Now, that is a really, really super cool system, and I like it. The problem there being, at that point, we would have to go back and adjust the damage of every single move. All of them. Because I can't do this and have them also deal, one dice equal to their power. I also can't simplify it by simply saying, well, let's just divide the damage of the move by, say 10. Just take the 0 off. Because then at that point, it would only be doing like 1d4, and even at level 22 to 23, or not level 22 to 23, but strength 22 to 23, 6d4 is only... It's only 24 damage. And so that does not respect what tackle is in the game. Alden says, it's wild how far this rabbit hole has led us, all because of the split moves. No, it's fair. It's a wild rabbit hole, but it's also like, this is... I mean, I hate to say it, but this is why people actually get paid big dollars for game design. It is not that hard to go out and make a game. Okay? It's really not. I make games all the time. If you give me a few little knickknacks and a couple of dice, I can throw together a game in less than 5 minutes. Okay? And I will promise you, it is a game that people will enjoy. It'll be fun. We can sit there, play it, drink, have laughs, have some snacks, whatever, and everyone will have fun. But when you're talking about games that have this high level of complexity, game design takes on an entirely new meaning. There is a reason why people get paid to do this kind of stuff, and there's a reason why people go to school for it. I mean, there's a reason why people try to teach this stuff, and I'm not sure how much of it you can teach. A lot of it I just do on instinct. Keeping everything balanced is difficult. And I mean, if you want no better example of that, go back to Dungeons and Dragons. If you can pull up some of the original, like the first edition Dungeons and Dragons stuff, Dungeons and Dragons used to be a mess. Dungeons and Dragons was so bad. It was. And you know why? Is because when Gygax invented Dungeons and Dragons, when he developed it, Gygax did not want a numbers game. He wanted it to be a role-playing game. And as such, there weren't a ton of numbers for you to play with. Most of what the original Dungeons and Dragons was just modifiers. And those modifiers were, do you have, or how much advantage do you have in a situation? Because you would essentially say, well, I have the following advantages in this situation. And then your DM, your dungeon master, would make a call based on that and tell you what the result would be. There wasn't a ton of rolling dice to see what your damage was, or roll the dice to see necessarily what your attack was. It was really open to interpretation. And so that's why, as Dungeons and Dragons grew more popular, he didn't even try to fix it. He really didn't. He moved on to a D&D. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, where he said, okay, I am going to take everything that worked and I'm going to try to rebuild the game around it. And somewhere along the line, that's where we got THAC0. And everything went to shit. And anybody who defends THAC0, you deserve to be hit with a broom, okay? I'm not dealing with you. Eventually we got to Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition, and that's when D&D turned into what it is today. But that was an evolution of like 30 years of game development. I've been on a rabbit hole for like an hour. Gygax was in that rabbit hole for 30 years. So, you know, just so you know. Getting back out of the rabbit hole, though, we still got to get back into Power Split. And what is it going to do? Because I'm not going to go back and redo the other moves. Because, again, the only way to make that work would be to go through and redo the damage potential of every single move. And I don't want to do it. That's what I established when we started this module. I am not going through and reevaluating every single move. There's too many of them. It takes too much time. Which means that Power Split is... Here's what I think we're going to do. If I give it a damage boost, okay? If I give it a damage boost, then hold on. If I give it a damage boost, then I'm undoing the damage reduction, and I don't want to do that. But here's what I can do. Here's something that I could do. What if we didn't adjust the damage? But what if instead we adjusted the chance to hit? See, one of the things that we haven't talked about is whether or not you're going to be using, or how you're going to hit. Because, let's be honest, we haven't covered that. So, physical, special, and status moves. All of these have an accuracy to them. Now, one of the things that we have not covered is the fact that the accuracy is not important to us. It's really not. The accuracy is irrelevant because we're going to be rolling dice for that. However, what about modifiers? What about the modifiers to this? We already have up here, if it's a plus or minus on accuracy, it's going to be a plus or minus on your attack roll, and that's fine. But here's what we're going to do. I'm going to move this down. Okay, I'm going to move this down. We're going to come down here. Format Painter, because I'm sure that I still have to. There we go. All right. Strength. Dexterity. Constitution. Intelligence. Now, strength is also going to be attack. Can I type? Dexterity is going to be speed. Constitution is going to be HP. And intelligence is going to be special attack. Now, we already know that when we're attacking normally, okay, when we attack normally, and this is true for every character in every game forever, base attack bonus. As we already established, the base attack bonus is going to be your level divided by 5. So, when we're talking about, technically up here, our Venusaur, our melee attack is our base attack bonus, which level 100 Venusaur, 100 divided by 5 is 20. Plus, because it's a melee attack, your strength bonus, which with a 20 is going to be a 5. So melee attack plus 25. With the moves, though, this is just a straight D20 roll so far. I have not included yet base attack bonus to this. And so, I think we need to actually write this down. We already wrote down that all beams are a line, all adjacent is going to be a radius, and all opposing adjacent is a cone. Okay? Because all adjacent, you don't get to pick who's getting hit, and opposing adjacent, you can at least direct it. I'll move this down one more. Means I have to format painter these again. Okay. Move attack roll is going to be 1d20 plus base attack bonus plus it's going to have to be either their strength or their intelligence. All right, so we'll do that. The move attack roll is going to be that. So if you're using tackle, all right, if Venusaur still had tackle, and I don't know why Venusaur would still have tackle, but if Venusaur still had tackle, Venusaur would then have a couple of options. Number one, Venusaur can bite them. Melee damage, 1d12 plus 5 strength, okay? So that's pretty good. It's your basic attack. 1d12 is actually the damage of a battle axe, so every time Venusaur bites you, it's like getting hit by a battle axe. I'm good with that. You go, green dude. But if we were then going to say, all right, instead, Venusaur, go ahead and use tackle. Instead of using the normal melee attack roll, it would, I suppose, be, well, actually, technically, it would still be the same thing. 1d20 plus base attack bonus, which is still 20, plus, because it's a physical move, because it's a physical move, it would still be strength. So actually I need to change this, not attack, this is going to be physical. And then this one just needs to be special. Alright, so it's going to be 1d20 plus the physical, or strength for physical, which again is a plus 5, which means it's a 1d20 plus 25. Now, how does this get into this? Because we're going to be able to do the same thing now with Power Split that we did with Guard Split. Where when you use Guard Split, I would simply tell you, based on the difference between your Pokemon and my Pokemon, how much your damage reduction was going to go up or down. I can do the same thing with your attack and say that you used Power Split. I've run the numbers, behind the screen and said your attack move is now going to go up or down by a number of points. So if you had a strength of 10 and therefore you have no bonus on your attack roll, but I have a strength of 20 and I have a plus 5 on my attack roll, we divide that by half, we both go to 15, and 15 is a plus 2. So I'm going to go down by 3, you're going to go up by 2, and now we both have a plus 2 on our attack roll for our moves. The same thing, of course, will naturally apply to any special moves by doing the same thing with intelligence. And this way, we get to actually benefit, or possibly not benefit, depending on, how flippantly you use this. But we get to benefit from using Power Split. It's not going to increase your damage. However, as I am always keen to recite, every move that misses does 0 damage. It doesn't matter if you do less damage, so long as you can do consistent damage. This is why everybody will always tell you consistency is key. I mean, if you're working in a factory making widgets, and you make 1 perfect widget, and 9 that are garbage, you're getting fired. But if you can make 9 widgets that are good, and 1 that you have to throw in the trash, consistency is better than perfection. Or as they say, never let perfect be the enemy of the good. So, there we go. Power split. It's going to let you hit more often. And that should be good. Now, we are almost out of time. I'm going to go ahead and say this is going to be per rules, because the rules of power split are not going to change. It's just our interpretation of them changed. So next, speed swap. Which is pretty obvious. Just exchange your speed stats for the target. Okay. That's easy. Per rules. Okay, now power trick. I wanted to finish this up today, but this would take us like another hour to finish, I think. So we'll get a couple more in, and we'll take a break, and I will have to just profusely apologize for not being able to finish this today. I am trying. I really am. Alright, it is a Psychic type move introduced in Gen 4, but what does it do? Power Trick switches the user's raw attack stat with the raw defense stat. Okay. Stat modifiers are not swapped. The effect of Power Trick may be baton pass to swap with... Okay, so you're just switching your attack and defense? I mean, that's simple. Sure. Per rules. Power boost? There's no link there. It lasts for 4 turns for Bulk Up, Calm Mind, Victory Dance, and 5 turns for Nasty Plot and Sword Dance. Oh, wait. Sword Dance. I know that one. Hold on. Power Boost. The status condition in Legends Arceus indicates Pokemon offensive stats increase, raising it while it deals its moves, or increasing the damage it deals with its moves by 50%, usually consists of moves that raise attack or special attack in the core series other games. With Sword Dance, though, if I recall, it also hurts you. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Oh, actually, I think I'm thinking of Belly Drum. I think Belly Drum is what hurts you. Sword Dance increases the user's attack stat by 2 stages. It can be used as the first move in a contest combination. I don't care. However, that was in Gen 1 through 5. In Gen 6, they reduced the number of uses. In Gen 8, it raises the stats for 5 turns. Alright, so it's still going to be 2 stages. It's going to be 5 turns. But this is actually really simple. It raises their attack stat by 2 stages. Again, if we come back here to moves, attack gives you advantage or disadvantage on physical moves. And so by 2 stages, basically you get to roll your attack 3 times and take the best result. Which is great. Now, is that going to be a huge deal? Well, let's face it. If your attack roll is like our Bulbasaur or our Venusaur was, a 1d20 plus 25, you're probably hitting anyway. Now, that being said, it also means that giving people disadvantage on those rolls, super important. If they have really high stats like that, and you can give them all the disadvantage in the world, do it. Okay, so I believe we can leave this just as is. It'll be fine. So status effects, power boost, per rules. All it does is increase your attack by 2 stats. And power drop, I assume, is going to be the same thing. So, per rules. Just same thing, opposite. And if I look at it, power drop, Mystical Flare, Snarl, Struggle Bug, and Baby Doll Eyes. Yeah, it's the exact opposite, so we're fine there. Okay. So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have to cut it off here. Hate to do it, but, I mean, we got to do it. We have a lot to do, though, still, but I think some of these are going to be easier, I hope. Guard Boost and Guard Drop. It could be the same thing as Power Boost and Power Drop. It'll be fine. Critical Hit Boost is going to be the same thing, I'm sure. Especially since we just went through all the stuff with getting pumped, which adjusts crits on a modifier scale. Critical Hit Boost is going to do the same thing. Like, almost positive. As for everything else, we'll cover it when we can. So, I apologize. It was my all the rabbit holes that I went down, but they had to be done. We had to go over this. It was important. So, we know what we're doing next time. We still got to finish this up. I'm having flashbacks already to back when I had to do all the translations for Magic the Gathering. It was a lot. We made it through it, though. We made it through then. We'll make it through now. So, I will see you next week for more Pokemon. If you haven't subscribed already, and you want to, because you should, go ahead and do that. Hit the bell icon, that way you're notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into either tabletop games or Pokemon, share this video with them. But if you just like me, you like what I'm doing, leave a like on the video. You can leave comments down below. You can even join the Discord and leave comments there. I highly recommend it. We post memes. I like memes. Do you like memes? You should come at least for the memes. Come for the memes, and then stay at the Behind the Screen channel. Let me know what games you want to play and what your availability is, and as soon as I have enough people for a game, we will play games. So, I hope to see you in the Discord server. I hope to see you back here next week. And until then, take care.